Unfortunately for everybody here, Ed Johnson, who was supposed to be here tonight to present the award, was unable to attend. Ed had a slip and fall accident earlier this week. He's fine. He's going to be fine, but his doctor told him not to travel. So, in any event, Ed did give me his written remarks, which I'll attempt to relay to you with very minimal interpretation. The first part of this is all Ed, so you're going to have to imagine me speaking as Ed, which I know is going to be difficult. He said, and this is Ed, definitely not me, was very fortunate to win the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award in 2005. Evidently, it was a very slow year, and Steve presented the award to me. I can recall that night with great clarity. My family, and of course my very proud parents, sat happily at the main table as Steve's introduction went on and on and on. And as he told a totally fabricated story about a car on Forest Lane, I watched my father's expression turn from joy and pride to pure embarrassment. I was very happy to get up from the table, some might say run away from the table, and give my comments, 50% of which were now, very quickly, based on what great parents I have. Well, Steve, I can assure you, you have nothing to worry about. The idea of revenge never entered my mind. I'm not going to tell stories about Glasheen's car on Walnut Hill or raids on certain groups of students at the University of Dallas. Nope, we're not going to go there. You're looking incredulous, as though you don't remember. So, so sit back and enjoy a wonderful tribute without a care in the world. And I must say, Mr. and Mrs. Rasch, you're in for a treat. We hope. Okay. So Ed's presentation could have been given by any member of the class of 1980. We all have the same feelings towards Steve, and we all know the same stories. Steve is a great Cistercian man. He's past president of the Alumni Association. He's a member of the school board. He's been our class agent and class representative for years. And of course, he's an extraordinary fundraiser, as most people in this room know. His efforts on the sustentation drive are exceptional. He actually roped me into being our class representative. What's my title? Form captain last year. And when I say it was, I really had no choice. So, and his money-raising skills for the Alumni Scholarship Drive are legendary. His ability to squeeze every dime out of his fellow classmates from the 1980 class is truly frightening. Steve has a great way of playing his buddies off against each other, and we're going to do a little recreation of how that works with Steve as your class agent. I'm enlisting Scott Freeman, who's a Form 1 dad and a Notre Dame classmate of Steve's, to help me in a little reader's theater here. So this is a reincarnation of what would actually happen and has happened repeatedly over the years when Steve is fundraising from the class of 1980. I'll be playing Steve, and Scott will be playing everybody else.
So I'm Ed right now.
Yeah, he gets to be Ed. Hey Ed, how's it going? How's the family?
Hi Steve, everyone's doing well. In fact...
Yeah, that's great. Listen Ed, I hate to do it, but it's that time of year again. Can I put you down for phone-a-thon one more time?
Man, I've got 4 different capital campaigns going on, and okay, put me down for what I did last year.
Steve, thinking to himself, says, okay, I got him. Now I need a foil. Aha, Donohoe. Mike, you know how much I hate to do this, but it's that time of year. Ed has already upped his contribution from last year. Can I count on you for an extra 1,000 this year?
Well, with Nick in school and contributing to sustentation, I'll probably just put the money there.
Oh, come on. We can't let these old guys take us down. Sorry, Jim. How about an extra $500?
Well, since this is a competition, okay.
Moving on to Kevin Glasheen. Kevin, it's been a year since we talked. How's it going?
Great. I'm a super lawyer now, like you. I love my play. Football game. Family's great. But Steve, I'm pretty sharp. How much do you want this year?
Well, Donohoe and Ed are in for $3,000. Well, and what Steve's really thinking is, well, they might give that much in over the next 10 years. I saw you just won a big jury verdict. You can match those chumps, right?
It's a lot of money, Steve, and I have to pay higher jet fuel prices.
Kevin, don't you remember the day I almost died in your car on the way home from that field trip? You kind of owe me and the school.
Didn't you play that card for the capital campaign?
No, I don't think so. But come on, one almost death is worth at least $10,000 to the school, right?
I'll think about it.
Okay, back to Ed. Ed, Mike's in for an additional $1,000 and says, if you don't match him, you're not a man.
Tell Donohoe. Whatever. Okay.
And now, the hard part. Ellen, Ed, Mike, and Kevin have really stepped up their donations this year. Why don't we tithe 10% of my ridiculous gross income to the school? Father Peter would be really happy, and hey, maybe I'd get the Moroney Award. What?
No.
Okay, well, we'll do what we did last year. So how did Steve get so good at fundraising? Thank you, Scott. Scott's also going to be the AD. Oh, yeah, you're not. So how did Steve get so good at raising money? He is, if nothing else, persuasive. Obviously, that trait has allowed him to have a great legal career, but it is clear to us early on that Steve could be very persuasive. You may not know it, but Steve single-handedly changed the way Dallas TV news stations report weather and school closings in the area. This is a little-known story that's being outed for the first time in a big group. In the 1970s, when people were still trustworthy, school principals could just call Channel 8 on a cold, snowy morning and say, Cistercian Prep School has no school today. And voila, no school. That was before shy, unassuming Steve Rasch. I think we were in Form 6, and school kids all across the city were hoping for no school the next day since the weathermen were predicting a huge snowstorm coming. We were certainly hoping for it because we had a huge math test the next day. And all of us students were calling each other, promising each other we were not going to study for that test. We were betting on snow, no matter what. The phone tree was going around the campus, around the school. So guess what? No snow. Not a flake. I don't think it was below 32 degrees. But wait, Steve to the rescue. As reported on Channel 8 the next morning, oddly, we have one school closing. Cistercian Preparatory School will not be having class today. What great fortune for us. At least a third of the school stayed home, since Channel 8 was the official weather station of the Cistercian school. Now that the statute of limitations is run, I can finally let out this little secret. Picture Steve with his best Hungarian accent. Hello. This is Father Danis from Cistercian Preparatory School. We will be closed today due to the icy conditions. This led to a change at news stations across the city. Schools were now required to give a code when reporting there would be no school. This is a true story. Steve could also be very persuasive with his teachers. One of his greatest skills was persuading teachers to postpone or even cancel tests. Taking that to a whole new level, as Steve usually does, Steve convinced one monk, who will go unnamed, that the students would all do how they always do on the test. So why bother with the actual test? Why not just offer the students the opportunity to take their average grade or take the test? Give them a choice. This worked. But what it turned into was not really your average grade, but how our government teacher thought of you at the time. The best part was listening to the roll call. Rasch, A or test? Godat, A or test? Ruffing, A or test? Snyder, C or test? That was Steve at his best, and it's also a true story. And Steve is always willing to ask for the absurd. What's the worst could happen? Somebody could say no. You've seen that in fundraising, I'm sure. One example of this occurred at a local watering hole where Steve actually attempted to convince a buddy who was the victim of a horrific walk-by vomiting episode to stay at a bar. Picture Steve saying, "Hey, it's okay. No big deal. Here's a towel. Sit down. Stay. No one can even notice. Let me buy you a beer." It didn't work, but it was an amazing effort that I'll never forget. So Ed was involved too. Okay. But since he's not here, he's immune from it. So, what were the significant events that formed Steve? One certainly occurred during our senior year. As we approached graduation, Steve was barely beat out for valedictorian and salutatorian by David Godat and John Ruffing. This sent the normally happy-go-lucky Steve into a downward spiral of self-loathing. This is actually the day after our graduation, and as you can see, this is editorial, by the way. Steve may have developed a drinking problem as a result of this. He was certainly an angry young man. Quickly, he moved on to experimentation. For those of you who are thinking of sending your kids to Notre Dame, I give you this. And then it moved on to revelation. Yes, it was Steve's brief stint in the South Bend chapter of the Hare Krishna that started him on his path to greatness in fundraising. Nothing safe. In spite of his foray into Eastern mysticism, Steve is a relentless friend or courtroom adversary. He has a quiet tenacity in whatever he does. He never backs down and has absolute conviction in his faith, his family, and his political views, but we're not going to go there. He never gives up on his friends, and I think he may have picked up that unfailing belief from our form master, Father Henry. But all the cheerleading and fundraising is secondary to what Steve has done for the class of 1980. Steve has achieved redemption. Steve has achieved redemption in the final stage of his journey of self-discovery. He brings us together and holds us together as a class. Thanks to Steve, our class of 1980 email list grows longer each year. Guys we haven't heard from since graduation have returned to the fold. And as this photo from our 30-year reunion this summer shows, Steve is no longer the father dentist imitating, curriculum manipulating, angry milk drinking, socially confused Hare Krishna of his youth. He has become a leader, our leader. And as each year goes by, I think we of the class of 80 all appreciate Cistercian more and more. This is true in large part because of Steve Rasch. I know that Father Henry is looking down, smiling, and enjoying what Steve has done for the school. And Father Henry is gracefully and understatedly proud of the person Steve has become. A class representative, the Alumni Association president, a school board member, classmate, father, husband, friend, a Cistercian man. Steve, it's my honor to present to you the Jim and Lynn Moroney Award for 2011.